What have you learned?
What have I learned? I was contemplating a bit about what is truth. To be more specific, what does it mean for something or some statement to be true?
Good, good, good.
And I, I don't know whether those are two conclusions that I arrived at. So one thing that I arrived at is like I question myself: is it possible to find like is it possible for some statement to be true? It is, could
Yes, of
be.
course it is.
Like to be more precise, I would say, can thoughts be truth?
Well, that's a
Can there be
different that's a
truth in
different question.
thoughts?
That's a different question.
Yeah, so I was thinking like, can you arrive at some truth through beliefs? But that reminds me of the Gödel's incompleteness theorem, which basically says if I have any basis, like any axioms, in this case it could be beliefs,
Okay.
the last points, like if I have any sets of belief,
Okay, good.
anything
This
that
is
I come
Gödel,
up
by the
with
way. This
from,
is Gödel, Godel, in case people,
yeah,
because that's a German word name. Okay, Gödel, Godel. This is incompleteness theorem. Keep going. Good.
yeah, yeah, that's what I thought. Like, so any beliefs that I have,
Mm-hmm.
any statements that I construct by some inference, like if this is true and this is true, then this will be true and all. If we keep
Mm-hmm.
going on like that,
Yes.
Gödel's incompleteness theorem essentially says you will have statements where they are simultaneously true as well as false in that system.
Okay.
In a way, it feels like even if some statements are true or false, if I were to prove some other statement, or there could always exist some other thought in that basis of beliefs, that thought will not be true or false, or it will be true at the same time. I, I feel
Do you
like
do you mean that it won't
you
be
cannot.
true, it won't be false, or that it can't be proven to be true or false, or that within that language system it will be true and false at the same time? Like,
Third
for
one, I would
example,
say.
quote, this sentence is false, end quote. What about that sentence?
Yeah, you can't. Eh,
Correct. Good, good,
Like
good.
if you assume it's true,
So there's
you can't do anything
so
about
there are
it.
limits to languages as described by Gödel, Godel.
Or in extension, you would say thoughts as well, because thoughts are based on some basic like
Are they?
beliefs, not necessarily.
Someone was telling me not long ago about a self thought. Is that a thought?
Yeah, this is
It
what I
is.
think. Like
It is a
there
thought.
is a self-thought as in things referencing to me, in a sense like if I don't get this
No, I'm not
done,
talking
then
about
I will get
communicate.
fired.
I'm not talking about communicating to anybody. I'm talking about the sense of self. Is that a thought?
So what do you mean by sense of self? The feeling that I amness of
I am.
myself.
I amness. Okay. Yeah.
I again, I don't know.
Okay. Well, you got to
I
find that
don't know.
out. You got to find that out because that's kind of important
No,
in this work. But let's keep going. This is good. So you're talking about the incompleteness of any of any set of beliefs or statements within a language.
yeah, yeah. Like even if some statements are true in those set of beliefs, from those set of the beliefs, there will already like there will always some exist some statements that cannot be proven or disproved.
True or
And
false, okay? But the thing is, that's a set of statements within a language.
yeah,
Now let's step outside the world of language. Now what do we have?
we can't even discuss about what can be proved true or false at all if we are going out of bounds
Sure
of
we can.
language.
Sure we can.
that's where the second thing that I arrived at. I was thinking, so like for example, there is this statement like sun rises from east, and right now it's night in my place. So
Okay.
I can't prove that. But when morning comes, I can prove that sun does indeed rise from east.
Okay,
Like
good.
it feels like whatever's happening right now that I'm aware of, that's definitely true.
Okay. Does that require language?
No.
Okay, good. So what have you demonstrated by your contemplations, which I applaud, by the way? Very good. Very good.
But is this what the truth is?
I'm sorry, what?
Like when people ask what is truth, and they sometimes collate it with God and all, God, thou. What does it mean when people say, I want to know the truth?
Which people? Most people, when they say that, they don't really want to know the truth. They just want to have confirmed what they already believe. So you have to specify which people.
People
Another
searching
sad
for
fact,
thou.
while I'm at it, another very sad fact. Most people will believe whatever they were taught. That makes me want to
Yeah,
cry,
that's
but it's true. Very sad and very unfortunate for our species, but most people believe whatever it was they were taught.
it's I don't know. It's the I think one reason for that is it's really uncomfortable to go against your mind if it says something is true. Or by
Really?
mind,
Is
I
it?
mean the conditioned mind.
Yes. It's a.
Like,
Is it uncomfortable really, or do people just imagine it's uncomfortable?
I would argue second. And that's what I faced last few weeks,
You imagined it was
last 1 or 2
uncomfortable.
weeks.
You imagined it was,
Yes.
yes. But the mind is much more malleable, much more plastic, much more flexible than the people give it credit for. When you're an old man, you learn many things that you could not possibly have understood when you were a younger man. And some of those things you learn are diametrically opposite to what you thought was true. I'm thinking now of just mundane, simple things like politics or uh, institutions and things like that. So that's very good that you're getting acquainted with the fact that your mind has to be able to be flexible if it's going to continue learning.
Yeah, and
Also, some
like
things in
it got
science too.
proven.
Some things in science turn out to be bitter pills. But go ahead. This is great.
It,
So it's not as
like
painful as you
that's what
thought.
happened.
Go ahead. It's not as painful as you
Yeah.
thought to have to change your mind.
Yeah, so basically last week what happened was I had to interview some of the interns for 5, 6 hours straight.
Okay. Don't be too
And
specific about
it,
what company or anything, but go ahead.
yeah, like my mind prior to that was like, this will just wait, because this happened from evening till midnight. Because
Oh
that's the
boy.
time we had. My mind is basically like, it would be a pain. Plus, these are like sophomore people. Like, they don't know much, so I have to handhold them a lot. So it's like 5 to 6 hours of assisting them a lot. But when I actually did it, I really liked it. Like,
Oh, good.
I was
Good.
talking to them, I helped them, and like I didn't spoon feed them. I nudged them and all, and I talked to them what they are doing, and also it was really good. But this was
But you
like
helped them
prime
a little bit. You nudged them in
example.
the right direction.
Yeah,
Doesn't that feel good?
yeah,
Doesn't it feel good to help
yes,
somebody else?
yeah,
Remember that feeling. That's very important in
yes,
this life because we're going to run out of things to do. Right?
yeah,
And so helping
yeah,
each other is a wise strategy for a life. Seriously. There's always people that need help. But go ahead. Tell me more. So you're interviewing these sophomores. Oh boy. But they don't know
yeah.
much.
Like it, Yeah.
Keep
But
going.
what I observed was like my mind's status before this and after this was totally different.
Hmm.
And when I was interviewing, my mind was not talking about anything at all. Like, it's as if the more I give time to myself, the worse I become. I remember that quote that empty mind is devil's workshop. It's
An empty
kind of
mind is the
literally like
devil's
that.
workshop. I think it was empty hands are the devil's workshop. But okay. Okay. All right. In some cases, an empty mind is the devil's workshop. But yeah, I think the saying is idle hands are a devil's workshop or something like that. But empty mind is the devil's workshop. Okay, good. So your mind was it
But
empty
yeah, that
while you were interviewing, or was it not empty?
yeah, when I was interviewing, yeah, it was not empty, and I was fully concentrating and
You're fully
not
present.
thinking about these things at all.
That must have
Yeah,
been nice
fully
for them
present.
too. That must have been nice for them to see someone fully
Yeah,
engaged. Good for you.
yeah.
So before the interview, you were dreading it, or what?
I was dreading it in the sense that I'll be wasting 6 hours of time, and then because there is a lot of work these days, so again, it's like I was working till 6, then doing this, and then getting up again work. Like my mind was like, we can't be chill at all. I know it sounds childish, but yeah.
No, no, I understand. I
So
understand. And so then what happened during the interviews? What did you realize about yourself or them or the situation, do you think, that changed you?
I I didn't realize during that time because I was fully engaged with them. I realized these things afterwards, I would argue.
Well, pay attention to things like that. Maybe you're meant to be a manager. Maybe you're meant to lead people or help them, guide them or, you know, orient them or something, coordinate them. Who knows? But pay attention to what makes you
Yeah,
happy in this life. Did it make you happy?
yeah, I was happy because I had them.
So then pay attention to what makes you happy in this life because there may be a hidden gift there. So
Yes.
learn about yourself, not just the bad things, God forbid, but the good things as well. So good.
Yeah, that's
Could you see any of
that
yourself in them?
a bit, I would say. Like I could remember my time during my undergrad and all,
Yeah.
and
When you were scared and you didn't know anything? Or you weren't scared
yeah,
and you didn't know anything?
that's what I thought, and that's why I was like not so strict with them and all. Like I
Yeah.
helped them a lot, and
Compassion. Good.
yeah, yeah, but
Anticipation is
yeah,
oftentimes much, much worse than whatever it is you're afraid is going to happen. That's where most human suffering comes from. Worry. Worry, 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 worry.
but it's natural. Like this is where I wanted to point out. It's really difficult to go against it. Like how can you challenge it at all? Like it says it's worse, and it says it's bad because of
You don't have to challenge it.
whatever experiences we had,
You just have to let it go.
and do
Don't
whatever.
fight fire with fire. Don't wash blood with blood. You just make it worse. Whatever it is, just let it come and let it go. It's like a cloud in the sky, except it moves a little faster usually.
Yeah.
Even with not just thoughts, but with moods and feelings. What we tend to do is we tend to hold on to a bone and gnaw on it and just won't let it go. But our nature is free and open and spacious, and so you just let them come and go. Now, admittedly, that's not always easy, and so there are different uh, techniques or tricks or hacks or whatever that people have learned over the ages. But for those, better to deal with the specifics than just speak in generalities. But see, you're growing, you're evolving, you're changing. Your identity about yourself is going to evolve as you grow. So get ready. Be prepared. It's okay to be happy, my friend. It really is.
I have few questions from
Good.
Instant Zen.
Question. Instant Zen? Oh, good. Instant Zen. There's also this book, which is excellent, but a little bit more advanced. Instant Zen. Let's see if I've got it here. I don't think I have. Oh, let's see. All right, wait a minute.
Okay.
Here we go. This is a very, I'm going to introduce it to the audience. This is a very nice book. It's Foyan, right?
Yeah. Foyan? No.
It's not Foyan. Who is it? Yeah, this is Foyan in the 11th century. Yeah. The 11th at the beginning of the 12th century.
Yes.
So this is a book called Instant Zen. It's translated by an illuminated Zen master, among other things. I mean, if you're illuminated, if you're enlightened, you're enlightened. There's no Zen or Sufi or anything like that to it. But this guy is particularly qualified to do this. And he's taken the 11th and 12th century Zen master from the pinnacle of Chinese civilization before the every cult came tumbling down and they burned their own history, a few hundred years later. But so this is a book to be recommended, and also very unusual for a book like this. It's available on Audible, so you can listen to it anytime. When you're working out, when you're walking. Probably not best when you're working out, but when you're walking or resting or you're washing dishes, you can listen to this book. Highly recommended for students of Zen. Okay, thank you for letting me do that intro to Instant Zen. I think it should be called Waking Up in the Present, and then below that Instant Zen maybe, because it's not so much instant, but in the present. Okay, go ahead. Question.
Yeah, so on page 78.
Yes, sir.
I think it's
page 78. Seek without seeking. Okay, sir.
Yeah, so it's from the second paragraph. You must seek, and yet without seeking, not seek.
Okay, good.
Yet
good.
still seek.
Okay, is that the question?
Yeah, like if we keep going at it, like if you can manage to penetrate this, you will then manage to harmonize seeking and non-seeking. So it is said, non-seeking, the body of reality is perfectly quiescent. Sorry for
Let me read the first paragraph before that, okay? Let me read these two paragraphs. Is that all right?
Okay.
All right, here we go.
Yep, sure.
Seek without seeking is the title of this little section. There is something in each of you that you will only be able to perceive when you turn around. So how does one turn around? By non-seeking, seeking without seeking. This is precisely what people find hard to deal with or get into. How can you seek if you're not seeking? How can you not seek if you are seeking? How can you seek if you're not seeking? How can you not seek if you are seeking? If you only seek, how is that different from pursuing sounds and chasing forms? If you do not seek at all, how are you different from inert matter? And then here's the paragraph, okay? You must seek, and yet without seeking. Not seek, yet still seek. If you can manage to penetrate this, then you will manage to harmonize seeking and non-seeking. So it is said, non-seeking, non-seeking. The body of reality is perfectly quiescent. Seeking, responsive function. No, seeking without seeking. Oh, wait a minute. Seeking without seeking, non-seeking. Okay, I'm sorry. There's so many seekings here. Okay, let me get something to mark the lines. Seeking without seeking. Oh, I'm going to start over because I messed it all up. Forgive me, folks. Okay, here we go. Non-seeking. The body of reality is perfectly quiescent. Seeking, responsive function does not miss. Seeking without seeking, non-seeking, objects and cognition merge. Substance and function are one. Therefore, you find the 3 bodies, 4 knowledges, 5 eyes, and 6 spiritual powers all come to light from this. Students must be able to turn around and search all the way through in this way before they can attain realization. Okay, so now what's the question?
I still don't get what non-seeking is.
Okay, did you listen to the last YouTube by any chance?
No, I didn't have the time.
All right, well, that would have been covered there because, let me see if I can find the page. I think it's 87.
Okay.
Because he writes it very well. I may just have to do it myself. I'm not going to be able to find it, but a beautiful analogy was made, and they're describing, and this is the secret of the golden flower. It's in here somewhere. I can't look it up right now. A mother hen sits on her eggs, right? And meanwhile, she must be alert to everything that's going around. And then occasionally she gets out and goes to get some food, right? Or water or something like that. And she sits on these eggs and her attention is on the living potential that's inside the eggs. And so she's her attention is penetrating below the shell of these eggs into the living potential, let's say. I know this, it's going to be hard to analogize this, but even while she's doing other things, her subtle attention is on those eggs. And so even as you go through your day doing whatever you may be doing, in the back of your mind, you're still seeking, even though you're not seeking. It's a different level of attention. So now you must study the books. You must learn the vocabulary or the metaphors or the images or the approach, the mentality. But at the same time, you must get lost in the words, because remember, as you said at the very beginning, that is proven by Gödel, that within any language system, there's going to be limits, right? And you're not going to get to truth within a language system. So as you seek by learning with language, right, like what we're doing now, at the same time, we're not seeking, but seeking, because in the back of our minds, we always have God or the Tao or the Buddha or Christ or, whatever words the presence, as Eckhart Tolle would call it, or I am, as Rupert Spirit would call it, or remembering, as the Sufis would call it, or cosmic Buddha or Buddha mind, as the more, esoteric Buddhists might call it. Do you see what I'm saying? Or Shiva, or or something like that. So overtly you're seeking, but also you're not seeking, and that's that's only one level of this. Now, as you understand more, there's no other levels, right? But that's the level for now.
I,
Questions?
I
Yeah,
was
good.
like regarding this itself, regarding turning around and the golden flower.
Well, remember, these are two different things now. One is the golden flower. Well, they're not totally two different things. But turning the light around is a specific technique described in this book, which is also described in several YouTubes. And there's only like about 10 pages of this book that are related to a technique of meditation, which is specifically suited for the 21st century. Okay, so that's why it's been selected. It was also selected in the 17th century or something like that. Let's see. And I talk about this in the last YouTube, but so turning the light around is a meditation technique. Turning around, as described in this Buddhist text, Zen text, is a slightly different, but related, slightly different. So go ahead with your question.
Yeah, no, but I think if you go ahead, if you continue on reading that seek without seeking part, right? I think Foyan talks about Yangshan's
What page is it
teaching
again?
about turning around. It's page 78.
A seeker asked Yangshan, "What special pathways do you have? Please point it out to me." Yangshan said, quote, "If there's anything in particular or nothing in particular, if I said there was anything in particular or nothing in particular, I would confuse you even more. Where are you from?" The seeker said he was from such and such a place. And so now again, what we're seeing illustrated is that according to the condition of the student, the answer is going to vary, right? But in this case, he's trying to find out where the seeker's from. Now, when they asked where the seeker was from, that meant more than just where were they emotionally or mentally or psychologically or in their practice. It also could mean from what hermitage were they coming, from what teacher were they coming. Because in those days there were more teachers, right? And people would go from one to one. So they write. Young said, "If I said there is anything in particular or nothing in particular, I would confuse you even more. Where are you from?" The seeker said he was from such and such a place. Yangshan asked, "Do you still think of that place?" The seeker replied, "I think of it all the time." Yangshan said, What you think of are the buildings, towers, and habitations, of which there are a variety. Now think back to what thinks. Is there a variety of things there?" So this is turning the light around. Yes. The seeker replied, "There is no variety of things here." Yangshan said, "Based on your perceptions, you have only attained one mystery. You have a seat and are wearing clothes. Hereafter see for yourself." Questions about that?
This is what I wanted to.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah. So, like when Yangshan asked, "Now think back to what things."
Right. Very good.
And even in the turning around, you can't do that. Because if I think about, like, if I see something, if I imagine some place, some buildings and all, and then I think about what I was aware of those things by turning around, I'm still in a thought.
Turning the light around. Turning the light around.
Yeah. So what does it mean to be turning light around? Like, I still feel like.
Okay. All right. Are you familiar with this? Okay. Let's stop. So let me ask you. Do you remember your hometown?
Yes.
You're not in it right now, right? You remember your hometown?
No.
Okay. You remember your hometown, correct? Now, are there streets and buildings and signs in your hometown? Lots of them, right?
Yes.
Now, turn the light of your awareness around to the source of your thinking about your town. Are there a lot of different things there?
No, and it's
No, there are not. There's nothing there. But go ahead. No, and what?
I feel like this is the same problem as seeing your own eyes, seeing yourself. You can't do that. Like, you can only see your reflections, but that's not the
You
thing.
see, because you're still thinking of eyes and optics. You should listen to the last YouTube and the YouTube before that, because seeing without the eyes, listening without the ears is what we're talking about now. And so that's a vital practice. But in order to do that, you have to understand the distinction. Let me see what I can do right now. Can you see yourself falling down some stairs?
Yeah,
Are you
I
using
can.
your eyes?
No.
Okay. So you're seeing without seeing. Or you're seeing with seeing and
Oh,
seeing without your eyes.
yeah,
Okay?
that would be
Right. So
accurate.
there's
Yeah.
a whole world of faculty of mind related to the second attention. Do you remember the second attention from Castaneda? Don
I
Juan, Don
actually
Gennaro?
don't.
The second attention? Okay, well, so this is why it's really important to digest this stuff as we go along. So, all right, so it's related to the second attention for those that do remember that. But at any rate, so now you're seeing without seeing, without using your eyes, correct?
Yes.
And now you hear without hearing. You can do that too. You can imagine that. I can ask you to imagine. I don't know. Mary had a little lamb. The song. Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
But you don't use your ears for that.
Yes.
Okay, so
No.
but that's just imagination. But that points you in the right direction. The second attention is more like what you really need. But we'll get back to that. We'll get back to Carlos and review that too, because in the 21st century, that's really, people are going to need that really badly because they're going to get lost in VR.
Is this what's happening? Like, whenever I hear something, a thought modulates whatever I'm hearing. It's like I'm hearing, and at the same time, I'm doing what we discussed just right now.
What is the thing we discussed right here, right now?
We discussed about hearing something without actually hearing it through thought,
Right, but we're trying to
seeing
make
something
we're
without
trying to
actually
make a
seeing.
distinction between hearing with your ears and hearing without your ears. Can you make
Yeah,
that
that's a
distinction?
distinction. Like with the examples that you gave, yes. But in real life, when things keep happening, I'm not sure.
Listen to this sound.
Yeah,
Now, can you hear that sound right now?
yes.
Okay. It's not that mysterious, is it? That's like your mind's eye or your mind's ear. And that's the first stage. Now, there's many different stages, right? But this is the first preliminary stage. Okay? In seeking without seeking. And so the subtle
Okay.
attention that the hen puts on her eggs at all times is analogous to the attention that one has 24/7 on truth if you're going to be fit for it. You got to really want it because everything in the human world is designed to keep you from it. Pretty much. It's like you've got a headset strapped to your face and it's showing you VR, 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 VR constantly, constantly, constantly. And you were born in the VR. And you live in the world of VR and you're trying to see beyond the VR headset. and you've never had it gotten it off your face. It's also like Plato's cave. You know the story of Plato's cave, right?
I've heard about it, but I haven't gone through it fully.
Yeah, you should try and listen to the videos that cover that and go into Plato's cave. That's important.
Okay.
Because all we're trying to do here is get out of Plato's cave. Out of the limited Gödel, as Gödel would describe, the limited and limiting prison of language. That's step one. Because within that language, whatever it be, Indian, Hindi, English, Japanese, or mathematics, we can only get so far. And we just go around in a big circle, basically. Is that making sense to you?
Yeah.
So you're living in a Turing complete prison, and Gödel is standing guard. Something like that. I'm playing around now. I'm playing around now. Okay, go ahead. Okay, next question. If that makes sense, keep asking questions. If it doesn't make sense, it's got to make sense, or it doesn't make, we shouldn't continue. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that question itself, yeah.
Okay.
So if you continue on that seek without seeking part, like this seeker said that
the seeker replied, there is no variety of things there. Yangshan said, based on your perception, you have only attained one mystery. You have a seat and are wearing clothes. Hereafter, see for yourself. Now, having a seat and wearing clothes are like, those are Zen shorthand for a certain level of attainment. Okay? Because he doesn't have a staff. He doesn't have a whisk. He doesn't, he's not living with the mountains or something like that. This seeker said that the objects of thought are varied, while the thinker is not varied. This view is biased. This is what prompted Yangshan to say he had only attained one mystery. His perception of the path was not accurate. Okay, so now we're getting into more advanced Zen here. This is non-dual. This requires a non-dual understanding. If you ask me, the object of thought with a variety of buildings and houses is in fact not various, while the unvaried thinker is in fact various. This can be demonstrated. Okay, what's the question with this last section?
I did not get the second part about.
Okay, because you still imagine.
Thinking subject is very.
Okay, let's imagine it's V. Okay, I'm gonna take a chance here, and this is actually a little bit more down the road. But imagine you're wearing a VR headset. How many different things are there? Let's say you're wearing a VR headset and there you see a road, you see a car, you see an airplane, you see a tree, and you see a bird.
But honestly, that's just one headset.
Exactly, that's just one thing. I don't want you to get confused, but so we've got to take the first step first. And the first step is to realize that the source of awareness is single, not varied. When you turn the light around, there's only one consciousness there. There's only one creative essence there. And I'm doing this, but there's no really turning the light around. That's the preliminary exercise. There's just one.
There's just one screen, and there are objects in this screen, and I'm misidentifying.
Now that's looking the other way. That's looking the other direction. So in one case, these are all metaphors. Don't get lost in them. And now I'm worried that my eyebrows are going to fall out, and who knows what's going to happen. But if you look this way out, you see the 10,000 things. But those 10,000 things are really just one thing. But you have to know that. I mean, you could also get there intellectually, I suppose. I don't know. So what's the problem? Using using the analogy of a VR headset, you could see that there may be 10,000 things on the screen, but there's only one person looking through the headset. Close enough for now?
That's good. Actually, I understood that a bit more.
Now I'm taking chances and worried about my eyebrows because they counsel not to make it too easy on folks, but they didn't have VR back then, right? So I'm going to take some liberties and use VR as a metaphor. But don't go getting lost in this VR metaphor because it's not virtual reality, it is reality. And people are getting lost in the simulation hypothesis and, oh my God, we live in a computer and all this craziness. That's not what we're talking about. It's just a metaphor, okay? For teaching purposes.
Yeah.
So as Wittgenstein says, once you get to the roof with the ladder, get rid of the ladder. Don't drag the ladder around with you. Okay? Good.
Yeah. I think there is this in the instant Zen itself on page 87 of the understand immediately.
On page
chapter.
87?
Yes.
Let me show the book to people while I'm looking for the page. All right, 87.
Yeah. So in the paragraph, one of my fellow students, one elderly, saw my late teacher for a year and a half. Every time he went in for a personal interview, the teacher would just say to him, "Elder, have you distinguished black and white at all?" Every time he went, this is what happened. How do you interpret talk like this? How do you work?
What's the question?
Have you distinguished black and white at all? Like,
Okay,
the way
let's
I get
put
it
it.
is,
We got to put this in context. This is in a zendo or a hermitage or a Zen monastery of such. These are students that have been there all year. It even says so, right? A year and a half.
yeah.
And they've got particular problems that they're working on. And for you to understand at that level, okay, have you distinguished black and white? You'd have to understand the student and understand the teacher. That's why they give us the names. Now this is Elder Lee. So what's the question?
What does it mean to distinguish black and white at all?
Well, who knows what it meant back then? But what? Okay. Do you have your phone there, or you're using your phone? I tweeted that there. Okay, so
Yeah, I do have X.
all right. What was my next to last tweet?
Wait, let me just go there.
You got to follow this stuff too. You know, it's a lot of work to do this. You got to listen to videos. You got to read books. You got to contemplate, meditate, follow. You know.
I think you were saying something about second to last.
Yeah.
tweet.
Yeah. What does it say?
I think knowledge comes from experience.
Okay, right before that.
Or
Knowledge comes from experience. That's an
That
important
is-
point. It doesn't come from reading books. It comes from experience, but you need the books to instruct you on how to get that experience. Keep going.
yeah. There is something before yes and no,
There you
up
go.
and down, left and right, yin and yang, plus and minus,
Black
life
and
and death, heaven and earth. Oh, black and white.
we can add black and
And
white
what
to
is
that
it?
list. We can add dark and light. So read the tweet again slowly.
There is something before yes and no, up and down, left and right, yin and yang, plus and minus, life and death, heaven and earth, and with our addition black and white. What is it?
There you go. What is it?
But that doesn't solve the question of can you distinguish between black and white?
It depends on at what level they're. I mean, obviously he can tell black from white. He's not blind and he's not stupid, right? So that's
Yeah.
obviously not the question,
Yeah.
right? There's something deeper
Yeah,
there.
that's obvious.
Okay.
We do that.
Now, what's deeper there?
I thought was to differentiate between black and white, I don't need to talk about it. I just know it. There's no need to explain what's the difference between black and white. There's no need for knowledge or language to talk about it.
The distinction.
Yeah.
Obviously. Okay, so let's see what I can do here. Can you distinguish between black and white?
Yes.
Obviously.
Yeah.
So if they're not talking about the obvious, what could they be talking about?
Something outside, something non-obvious, I would say.
Very good.
And
So let's say you put on your VR headset and you've had it strapped to your face since you were born. And someone says, can you distinguish between the ground and the sky?
in the VR world, certainly, yes.
But what are they pointing to by pointing the obvious? These guys call enlightenment finding the nose on your face. That's their phrase for it. To wake up is to find the nose on your face. So they're not slouches here. So don't, if you find it that easy and retarded, or just not sophisticated, then you probably got it wrong.
Yep.
Okay? You're going to have to get to another. So now you're pushing at graduate school here, okay? So you got to understand. You got to leave the undergraduate stuff. Like if you study the American Revolution, were Thomas Jefferson and John Adams against the monarchy? Against monarchy? The answer is obviously yes. When you're in college, but when you get to grad school, it gets more complicated. And then when you're, halfway through grad school, the answer changes, perhaps. Right? You see what I'm saying?
The way you pointed that question, right? Like asking someone who is wearing a VR headset and asking them to differentiate between sky and ground.
Heaven and earth.
It's heaven and earth. It's a moot point because they can't see that at all.
Sure they can. It's right in their headset.
But that's not real. That's just headset.
Okay. So now we're talking about outside the headset?
Yes.
Okay, now we're getting somewhere. Can you see outside your headset? That's what I'm asking you.
By removing it.
No, you can't remove it. It's strapped to your skull. You got to see beyond your headset without taking it off.
Okay.
I may have stumbled on a powerful metaphor because you know headsets.
Yeah.
So I forgot. For me, they're still exotic. For you, they're mundane. Yeah, so you got to see reality without taking off your headset.
How can you do that? Because you are
That's
still
what
in
we're
the world
talking
of the
about. That's
headset.
what this is. We're trying to get you to ground truth. That's exactly what we're trying to do here. And it can be done. It's been done. We know how to do it. But it's not easy for most people. Wasn't
It's
easy
not
for
easy
me.
because it's way too subtle.
Pardon me?
It's not easy because it's way too subtle. How can you ask someone who's wearing a headset to differentiate or let them know that they are wearing a headset if they have been wearing a headset?
Well, you've accepted that,
throughout
haven't
their
you?
life?
That you're wearing a headset? You've already said, I could not find ground truth in language as per Gödel, right? There are statements here that cannot be proven true or false. I can't get there from here. I'm inside this set of things. Now, how many things are there in a Gödel in the set that you're talking about? Let's say, how many things are there in the set of the world, of the universe? Let's just say there's
Infinite.
the 10,000 things, right? And truth will not be found in the 10,000 things. Now we're going to the Tao Te Ching, wherever that is. The myriad things in Chinese and Japanese, they talk about the 10,000 things or the myriad things, but it's, it's all the things you can count. Those are still within the set. And they're the same thing in one way of looking.
So correct me if I'm wrong here. Is this because the awareness who is fully attached to the virtual world is way more infinite than whatever the virtual world can provide?
Absolutely.
Thus, if it goes,
Absolutely.
yes,
Much vaster than this universe. That's what the
thus if it
Avatamsaka,
get
have you
to
been
all,
reading the Avatamsaka?
yeah,
That's
yes,
what this is trying to teach you. It's much vaster. Your Buddha mind and the Buddhaverse, which are the same thing, are much vaster than this puny little world or universe. But our heads explode because it's too big. It's too vast. It's too extraordinary. And so this prepares your mind to accept that reality and to see that reality and to become that reality.
yeah. I was just going to say, is this the reason why awareness is aware that there is something outside the constricted world that I have created?
Yes.
Because it is infinite and it knows there is
Yes, that's why people
way more.
inherently, unless you beat them down like donkeys with sticks and carrots, children seek truth. They're curious. They want to know. But then as people grow up, they say, well, I'm not going to care about it. I just want to care about the next promotion or the next raise or getting married or getting laid. And they forget where they come from. And then they grow old and they've forgotten who they are, where they come from and where they're going. And they suffer horribly in this world that they themselves have created with their mind. So yeah, it's incomparably vaster than this puny little universe. But in order to grok that truly, you have to prepare your mind. You have to undo so much of the garbage that's been done to it. You see, it's really very straightforward. And we don't need to add the religious or the mystical or any of that stuff, but the thing is, the preparation takes such devotion. It's like if you were devoted to understanding physics or devoted to art or something like that, where every fiber of your bone is pointed in that direction. Then you have a chance of getting there, of accomplishing. It's just like that. But it's your life that's at stake now. And the fact of the
Yeah.
matter is, the vast majority of people never lift their head. They don't have no idea. They're slaves in Plato's cave. Plato described this. The Buddha described. This is common knowledge. The question is, do you want to be one of the women or men that can say they're truly human, or are you content to just be a beaten down slave in Plato's cave?
Definitely no.
Okay,
It's
good. Well, you're
it's not
making
just
progress.
facts.
You're making good progress. Good. Anything else before we stop?
Uh, I had one few trivial questions
Good.
regarding
Let's
Avatamsaka.
go. Good.
Yeah, so it's like very trivial ones.
Avatamsaka,
One
the
of the
flower ornament
time
sculptor. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I keep hearing phrases
What page are
where
you on?
about I'm on page 152, but it need not be in page 152. I would say I keep hearing the light rays and how does it produce sound.
Okay, I like the excuse to read a little bit to folks.
Yeah.
This is Appearance of the Buddha, book 2. Is it book 2 or book 1? Yeah, book 2, yeah.
No, it's book 2.
At that time, all the masses in the oceans of worlds in the 10 directions, awakened by the Buddha's light, all went to Varakana Buddha's place and made offerings. For example, to the east of this flower bank array ocean of worlds, there is an ocean of worlds called Array of Lotuses of Pure Light. Among its world systems is a land called Diamond Mine of Jewel Necklaces. The Buddha there was called Infinite King Awakening Space with the Water of Truth. Among the Buddha's vast congregation was a great enlightening being named Lotus Banner, contemplating the supreme teaching, who came to the Buddha with a group of enlightening beings as numerous as atoms in an ocean of worlds. Each produced 10 kinds of clouds of forms of enlightening beings, filling space and not dissolving. They also manifested 10 kinds of clouds of jewel mountains, 10 kinds of clouds of spheres of sunlight, 10 kinds of clouds of jewel flower ornaments, 10 kinds of clouds of music containing all tones, 10 kinds of clouds of powder incense trees, 10 kinds of clouds of myriad forms of perfume and incense, 10 kinds of clouds of trees of all kinds of fragrances, cloud offerings such as these, as many as atoms in an ocean of worlds, filled all of space, not dispersing. Having caused these clouds to appear, the enlightening beings bowed to the Buddha and offered them to him. Then they magically produced in the eastern quarter lion seats of banks of lights of various flowers and sat cross-legged on those seats. I like this Buddha right here. This Bodhisattva, Infinite King Awakening Space with the Water of Truth. Ooh. So this is, you don't know it because you can't know it yet, but this is specifically designed to gradually start opening your mind and making it capable of seeing what's there. Okay? A lot of work went into it too, and it's very powerful. It's so needed by the world. Now, they couched it in Buddhist terms because that was the time, okay? But you need not get caught up in all of that part. All right, go ahead.
Yeah.
Now, what's the question? Thank you for letting me do that.
Yeah, my question was, I keep hearing about banners. Like in this case, there was a great enlightening being named Lotus Banner contemplating the supreme teaching. Do these banners have some different meaning, or are they what we think they are, a strip of cloth? Like, I did not get that.
So you see a strip of cloth hanging down. Have you ever seen those helicopters that fly over the Super Bowl and they've got the banners flying across those big banners?
Yeah.
That's what I think of. Yeah, they're banners. It's in plain English.
How can
Go ahead.
But how can an enlightening be named Lotus Banner? Like,
How could someone be named
okay,
Steel Or how can somebody be named Trump? Or how can somebody be named, you know, I mean, what do you mean? How can they be named that?
No, not name that. Okay, so yeah, I would see it as
How
a
can somebody
banner
be
as
named
it is.
Miller, or I don't know. Think of a name that, you know, or Carpenter. How can somebody be named Carpenter? Names are just names.
Yeah. Uh, okay. Should I treat them as names whenever I see any name in the Avatamsaka? Because there are a lot of names like that.
Yeah, just
I'm treating it
those are
like that.
designed to just fire off neurons in your brain. It's like the sandalwood, the sound of sandalwood, or the smell of the fragrant clouds of jewels. They're firing off neurons, right? Don't worry about that part. That's being done for you. You just have to read it.
Okay, so okay. I was just going to ask that question as well,
Okay.
like how can you smell gems and all, but I,
The second attention,
how can you smell?
but see, this is not. You're going to have to use your brain differently than how you've been used it all along. The rules that you learned in your VR headset are not the only rules, not the only rule set. Okay, so now you're learning a new rule set, and in this world, much more is possible because in reality, much more is possible. And we live these tiny little puny lives with puny little minds and puny little skulls, like monkeys lost in the woods, you know, children lost in the woods. But we don't have to live like that because that's not our what we come from. We are children of God, more than children of God. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Another question.
I
No, it's fine to ask
no,
these
that's
questions. I
it.
don't. Those are good questions. Get things like that cleared up
Yeah. Yeah.
because this is a jihad that's worthy of a man. This is a war that's worth fighting. And get rid of suffering while you're at it.
Okay.
Okay, sir? Anything else?
No, that's it.
Vaya con Dios. Guard your mind out there. And it's, you got to work, you know, and I know you're busy, but you can make time, right? Drive all efforts into one
Yes.
and keep on going. Take care.